Indians are, of course, going everywhere. And of course, you don't need statistics, you just need to step out on the street. But when you talk of business visits, now that is a little more interesting. Are Indians looking increasingly to invest in Sweden?
I think the number of Indians who are coming in here are professionals. They're coming in for business in the sense that they come and they take on jobs here. These are scientists, researchers, doctors, engineers, students, and a lot of IT professionals who are coming in.
Predictably.
Absolutely. So a lot of Indian IT companies are already invested in Sweden. They're doing exceedingly well. But as you know, Sweden is also a global leader in IT. And therefore, a lot of Indian employees are coming here as the highly professional labor to come and work in Sweden for a lot of these companies, not just in Sweden, but in Swedish companies across the globe.
Well, if you think of Sweden as the Silicon Valley of Europe, as it is being described or at least claimed, then that's a natural fit.
Yes, absolutely. So you have the population of Indian professionals growing day by day, and the visa regimes are becoming easier for Indians to travel and to work in Sweden. And labor mobility is now always on the table as a subject for discussion.
A subject for discussion or a matter for decisions of the kind India wants.
Both.
That's good. If the two can overlap, that's good because that's not what you see in a lot of Europe, certainly not in the UK.
Yes, but let's see. An average IT programmer in the city of Stockholm is an Indian, if you go by statistics. And there are huge number of vacancies lying all across to be filled. And in fact, Swedish companies want Indian labor, professional IT programmers to come in. And so these companies are recruiting labor in India in a large number. And therefore, the visa regimes have to be accommodative. They have to accommodate the number of Indians coming in here. The community is still small, it's about 30,000, but growing.
Well, and it's looking like it's going to grow faster and faster by the day and faster by the flight. But who are these flights taking back? Are they taking Swedes to India to travel, to invest, to do business?
Yes, indeed, they are.
And is that increasing?
Yes. There are already around 189 Swedish companies that work out of India and who are working in India, who have invested in India. Sweden is the fifth largest country of the world that makes in India. In fact, Ericsson, one of the major MNCs from Sweden, came into India in 1903. And since then, you've had all these major MNCs come in. And now, what's interesting is that 1 out of every 4 Swedish companies in India is also an SME. So the interesting thing is that there is a good mix now between the top MNCs and also the SMEs.
I understand a lot of the SMEs are in renewables.
Renewables also. And we've got the big names. So you know that Sweden has a huge amount of strength in renewable energy. They've got a very big strength in clean technologies. In fact, they are a global leader when it comes to being one of the most innovative economies of the world. They are very strong with their innovation and technology. Their companies are very strong with CSR. These are companies that are technology friendly. They are happy to not just work out of India, invest in India, but also creates R&D centers of global excellence and also share technologies with India. And they actually go that extra length in terms of skilling the local labor force. So that is where Sweden scores.
When you think Sweden, you think IKEA, and IKEA is now in India. You mentioned CSR. Is there a slightly different, a Swedish way in which IKEA is set up in India?
I would say that Swedes, when it comes to business and industry, are very thorough. They take their time, but once they enter a market, they stay. They are there for the long term, for the long haul. You particularly mentioned IKEA, which is obviously a global force. IKEA is also a global force because of the strength of Swedish design. The fact that it's simple, the fact that it's affordable, the fact that it is something that common people identify with, and at the same time, it's very creative. The way they do their furniture and all the other household equipment. So IKEA has come into India. They're going to be setting up 25 um, stores, and the first one in Hyderabad has already come up. And they've taken a very conscious decision as part of their CSR that 50% of their workforce in India is going to be women.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful. Yes.
if I don't know if you're aware of the fact that Sweden has a feminist foreign policy. This is
By
one
the sounds of it, a
country,
feminist trade policy as well, or a
a
business
feminist
policy.
trade policy as well, because it all fits into each other. You see, one dovetails into the other. They support women empowerment projects and activities across the globe. And it's very interesting how their academia, their corporates, their government, everything, every arm works in tandem with each other. So when there is a professed goal, there's a professed mission of women empowerment, the Swedish companies will go that extra mile to ensure that they're able to bring that aspect and incorporate it in their own CSR.
Will IKEA also make in India, which is what India wants, and which apparently the Swedes are more than happy to do?
Yes, they will. Eventually, they will. To begin with, they're setting up these 50 outlets, 25 outlets, excuse me. And these 25 outlets will then show the way for them to start procuring. They're already procuring from India. In fact, the numbers are quite huge.
A lot of IKEA stuff is made in India.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So IKEA is already procuring from India, but for them to set up their production facilities will take a while.
We also think of the Swedish defense industry. Um, and we know that, well, India has just bought the Rafale, but the Swedes are, the Saab, of course, particularly is very keen on the Gripen aircraft or systems avionics systems that can mount other aircraft. What is the extent of the defense business between India and Sweden? And um, does that show promise for growth in a way that, of course, is good for Indian security?
When the two prime ministers met in Mumbai for the Make in India in 2016, at that time there was a joint vision statement that was issued. One of the priority sectors identified for cooperation between the two countries was the defense sector. India and Sweden have been working together in the defense sector for several decades, and India and Sweden has been a reliable partner. You're aware of the fact that their technologies are par excellence, second to none when it comes to their fighter aircraft and their submarines, a lot of the other rocket launchers, ammunitions, guns. So they are actually one of the forces to reckon with, as a global power, really to reckon with when it comes to defense procurement. But you're also aware of the fact that we have a certain process when it comes to defense procurement. And the Swedes are patient, and they definitely have state of the art global products. We're certainly interested in those products, but there is a process to be gone through.
Sure. And going above into space, of course, both countries are very keen on space and both are doing more and more in space. Any prospects of doing more together?
The Swedish Space Agency and ISRO are in active touch with each other. The Swedes are extremely appreciative of the fact that we have Mission Mars and Chandrayaan, and that it is such a cost-effective technologies that we have put into space. They are extremely keen to work with us. We are talking to them, and we're very hopeful that the talks will come to a tangible fruition, and that we are actually able to collaborate on the ground concretely when it comes to space.
And finally, ma'am, collaboration is the keyword that India would like to hear rather than uh, India be seen as a market to sell patented products to. So, are the Swedes open to sharing innovation and, in fact, creating innovation together with India, even in these fields in the fields of defense, in the field of space.
As I mentioned, they have cutting edge global technologies, which are of great use to us because these dovetail very neatly into our own initiatives, the flagship initiatives of the current government, whether it's smart cities, Make in India, whether it's digitization, Swachh Bharat, Namami Gange. You can name the projects, and Swedish technologies fit into a lot of the initiatives that the government has taken.